So today we're adding level 2. Level 2 is just going to have a different brick arrangement than level 1. So it's not going to be anything really outrageously different. It's just going to be a different arrangement. So before we do that though, I want to rename room 0 so that it more closely reflects the idea that room 0 is actually level 1. Just like anything, I want to name things in a meaningful and descriptive way. And in there, just like we've been doing with every other element of our game, we start with a prefix that tells us what that element is, and then we have a name that gives it meaning in terms of the game. So I'm going to right click on room 0, go down to rename. You can also press F2, and it should give me a blinking cursor to allow me to rename it. For rooms, we're going to use RM to mean room, and then this will be level 1. It's that simple. Okay? If I hit enter, that will lock in the name as the new name of the room. Okay? Now, just like anything else, I can rename, or I can rename a room when I create it. The difference is, when we create a game for the first time, it automatically gives us a room, so it automatically sticks with the default room name until we change it. So we should get in the habit of, one of the first things we do when we create our game is that we should rename the room that we're given to reflect what it's going to represent in the game. Okay, in this case, we name it level 1. Now I'm going to right click on rooms and create a new room that we'll call RM level 2. Okay, and the only other thing we need to do is to go ahead and resize it to the same size as level 1, which was 640 by 480. So I'm going to make the width 640 and the height 480. And then of course we should also adjust the grid. Leave X as 32, but change Y to 16, so that it has the same grid and looks exactly the same as level 1. So when I click on level 1, that's what level 1 looks like. Level 2 right now is the same thing in terms of grid, in terms of size. It just needs bricks. So we can select OBJ brick, and then I can arrange them using Alt. So if I press and hold Alt, I can put bricks anywhere. So this one may be, looking at level 1. Here's what level 1 looks like for me. What I could do is we'll make it like a diamond. That's just an easy one to do. So I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to add 2 here. And then I'm going to add a row of 4. Whoops, said 4, not 5. Okay, or maybe I add 6. There we go. Make it a kind of a shallow diamond. So I'm just building this up like a row at a time. Okay. So that's a little more interesting than level 1. Level 2 is a diamond. That's it. It's the only difference. It's the difference between my level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is just a straight rectangle. It's I believe it's 6 by 4. So, it's 12 by 4. 48 bricks. My diamond looks like, I don't know if it's a little higher up or not. I don't have the same zoom on it. But the diamond there is a little bit different. Might have more bricks. I think, say 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 16 right there. There's 2 sets of these at, is that 12? 16 and 12 is 36. No, 38. Plus another 16 is 52. 54. I can do math. And then another 8 would be 62. So this has more bricks than the previous one. So That's a good measure of whether your second level is more difficult than your first one. Is that if there are more bricks to break, because that's the rule for moving on to the next screen, is break all the bricks. Okay. You can make whatever you want to make. I'm not asking anybody. I am making a diamond because I want to make a diamond for my level 2. Okay. So now that we have level 2, I need to do some things so that the objects that need to be there the whole time will be there the whole time. Okay? So, one of the things that I want to make sure happens is that all of the data that's already been stored, all the variables and their values, need to continue throughout all of the rooms. Okay? Score needs to keep going. Lives need to keep going. The ball and the bat need to keep going. So, what we need to do is we need to do some things with our objects. So I'm going to go first to the control object. And I'm going to double click to go to the control object. And over in the object window, the object pane, there is these buttons or these check boxes here. Okay? And I haven't really gone through many of them. We've used visible before because we've turned things on and off. But the other one that we're going to learn about today is persistence. And persistent. And if you mouse over it, it'll tell you about persistent. It says instances of this object will persist between rooms. What that means is that if I click the checkbox here, which I'm going to for control, what that means is that I can put one control object in the first room, and when I transition to the second room, that control object will get moved into the second room as well. So that means I don't need to add a new control object to the second room. I wouldn't want to do that anyway because when the control object gets created, it restarts the score, it restarts lives. Like it does a lot of things that we don't want to do. We want to leave lives and score alone so that they will continue through the 2 levels. Because we want to allow the player to keep adding to score, and we don't want to give them an extra life just because they beat level 1. So we're not restarting the game, we just want this object to continue through. So now we also want to do that for the bat and the ball. Okay, so I'm going to go to the bat, click persistent, and then I'm going to go to the ball and click persistent as well. Okay, now I did do that deliberately in that order for a reason. It's because if you remember from our presentation, all the code we're doing today is in the ball. So we set up the new level. Now we're going to do the code to make us go to the new level, and it's all going to be in the ball. And that's because the ball is the thing that's breaking bricks, and therefore it's going to be the place where we check to see have we broken all the bricks, which we already do, right? We check to see if we broke all the bricks. The difference was we do a game over if the bricks are all broken. The new thing we have to do is we have to check, are we in the last room or not? Because if we are in the last room, then we still need to go to game over. If we're not, though, then we should go on to the next room. Okay? So we're going to add a conditional to the place where we check bricks when we break a brick to see, is there, or are all the bricks gone? I think that's where we checked. I could be wrong. We could be in the brick object. Let's find out. Oh, you know what? I think we're in the brick object. I misspoke. Well, alright. That's alright, though. So, it looks like we did all that work in the brick object, so I'm going to go to the brick object instead. No big deal. And we're going to go to the OBJ ball. And I remember this now. Okay? The reason why we went to the brick object as opposed to the ball was because I could be sure after destroying a brick that I knew that all the instances of the brick were gone. That's why. So we're going to work with the brick. That's fine. We didn't set persistent on the brick, and we don't need to because we want bricks to stay in their own room. Mind you, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal, but we want the bricks to stay in their own room anyway. So the bricks don't get the persistent check mark. But right now, we destroy the instance, and then we check and see how many instances of bricks are left. And if that number is 0, then we go to game over. We need to add a second layer of check to see, okay, so if the bricks are 0, great. We need to see, are we in the last room or not? There's actually a specific block for that. Yeah. So we're going to scroll down to where we see rooms. So I believe there's a specific block for that. Come on, it's all the way, it's a ways down there. There it is. Yeah. And here it is. If room is last. Okay? It checks if the current room that we are in is the last room in the list of rooms. Okay? So I'm going to drag that underneath, or actually I shouldn't say underneath, it's going to be on top of the set global variable. And you'll notice that it's on top of that, and there's a difference between it being on top of the set global variable and under the if variable. Okay? You notice where the little box is, the box is attached to the top of the set global variable. So I'm going to click it there and leave it. Now, I do have the option of clicking not. Now, this comes down to my understanding and the way I want to understand it. So, if I click not, I'm saying, is this room not the last room? Which means it's not the last room I have. Because then, if it's not the last room, I would move on to a new room. If it is the last room, do something else. And we're going to need an else anyway. I'm going to leave not out. I'm going to not check not. And that's because I already have this set global variable for game over. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag that to the right. Because if this is the last room, whatever room we're in, then we want to go to game over. Otherwise, let's move on to a new room. Which sounds easy enough, but is... Because, right, I need an else. And then I'll come back down to the rooms. Else is like all the way at the top, I suppose. Okay, so the else is going to come out. Make sure we drag it to underneath if room is last. I don't want to mistakenly put the else on this one. I don't care if the bricks are not all gone. I only care if they are all gone. Whereas the room, I do care both ways, if the room is last or if the room is not last. Okay? So, okay. So in rooms, we have 4 different room blocks. So the arrow down is go to a specific room. The arrow right is go to the next room. The arrow left is go to the previous one. And then the arrow in a circle is restart this one. Okay, we want to go to the next room. Alright? That's all we have to do, right? We just need to go to the next room. What is likely happening when we break the last brick? Well, I'm saying like on the screen. How we break bricks? Okay, so the ball's moving, right? The ball's moving, right? When we break the last brick. Now, if I just go to the next room, do you think the ball's going to magically stop? Probably not. On top of that, do you think the ball is actually going to just magically find its way back to the bat? Okay. So we got a couple of things we got to do. Sure, we can go to the next room. That's fine. We need to stop the ball, which also means resetting the go variable in the ball. And then we've got to jump the ball back to the spot on top of the bat. Now, I could do all that here and then be like, oh, I can just like do that with all the there. But if I look at the events, if I click add event and I go to other, hey, look at that. Got a room start. Or and I have a room end. So what we can do is we can add a room end. And here's why. Because if we do this, if we truly want to set this up for when ever we move to a new room, if we use the room end event, there's always going to be a room ending. And so we're always going to do that. So I'm not going to do it in this one, though. I need to go back to the ball before I forget. So I'm going to double click on the ball. We're going to add from other the room end event. Okay? And the room end happens when we transition to a new room. Okay? This is not game end, this is room end. So when the room ends, we want two things to happen. One, ball has to jump back to the bat. So we should get a jump to point. And the jump to point for X, we're going to use the bat's X. For the Y, we want to sit on top of the bat. Remember that both the bat and the ball are 16 pixels wide, but both the bat and the ball dot X, yes. Remember, bat and ball are objects. Objects are collections of variables. Okay. For the Y, it's obj bat dot Y minus 16. And that's so that I can scoot 16 pixels up above the bat. Because again, both the bat and the ball are 16 pixels tall. But their centers, or their origins are in the center of each one. So the center of the ball is needs to be 16 pixels above the center of the bat. So there's that. Then we need to set the speed to 0. So direction speed, you should just have to drag the set speed block out there because it defaults to direction and 0. And then finally, we need to set the variable, the instance variable of go to false. Not instance variable, sorry. I need an assigned variable. There we go. Assigned variable. We're assigning the variable go false. Again, setting go to false sets it up so that I can restart by pressing space. So, to review. We created a second level. In that second level, we have a different brick arrangement. We renamed the two levels so that they reflect what they are. For OBJ control, OBJ bat, OBJ ball, we clicked the persistent checkbox in order to make it so that they stick in every room when we change rooms. In OBJ brick, we changed from going to a straight game over to seeing, is this the last room? And if this is the last room, then go ahead and do a game over. If it's not, let's go to the next room. And then finally, we went to the ball. And in the ball, when a room ends, we jump the ball back to the bat. We stop it. And then we set it up for pressing space to start again. Okay? Now, one more thing that I'm going to ask, and this is a total judgment call for you. Do we want to return the ball to its original speed or keep it at the same speed it was going at? Okay, so we're basically saying we're going to reward the player for for making it through one level by putting back the speed. Fair enough. So what I need to do then is I need to reset speed as well. So that's just another, I'm going to click the plus on assign variable. And we're going to, the name will be speed, and then we're just going to use the init speed. Okay, that will reset the ball speed to 0. Or not to 0, to 3, which is the initial speed. Again, we're doing all of this like this so that if I ever want to change the initial speed to a higher initial speed, I can. I can go to the one place where I set the initial speed and change it, and it changes, like that change will filter out through the rest of it. Alright, it's time to see if this works. Run. Okay. Here we go. It's taking its time. Okay. Well, we started. That's good news. Right, I'm going to click. Okay. See if I can beat this level. I should be able to. I was able to beat it before. Particularly when I have the elongation. Oh, restart. So play your game. Figure out how to see if you can win. You should be able to win. Getting all sorts of power-ups is helping me win. If you find that your power-ups are making it too hard or too easy for your game, then I guess you can reduce their frequency. That way they don't show up as often. Oop. When you go to the next level in like Arkanoid, I think the ball returns to an original speed. Could be wrong, but oh. Ah. Almost there. I've got about 10 more blocks. 9, 8, 7, 6. Jeez. Not fair. Down to 6, 5. Get the elongation. 4. If you're finding that it's too difficult, you might consider changing. Guess you might consider a cheat code. Or you might consider just having one brick out there so that you can break it and be done. Okay. Ugh! So close. There's one. Okay. The problem is that it keeps bouncing around and it's going to keep speeding up. There we go. Okay. So, you'll notice that my score stayed the same. My lives stayed the same. The ball is on the brick, or the ball is on the bat. It just showed the new bricks. And then it starts over with the speed. So it looks like my level up, or my change in level, uh-oh. That's likely problematic. I think I've reached a point of no return, but at least it works. So I'm going to go ahead and close that and be done.